أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه صلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم آمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Inshallah, this week on our conversation about living with prophets, we are going to talk about another problem in our day-to-day life, which may become a problem actually. So it's going to be about love of worldly life or worshipping a calf. Calf is like this small cow. Well, this is not a small cow, the one in the picture, but I guess it's going to be clear why this ox is in this picture eventually during our discussion. So just as a warm-up, I might want to take your opinion about when we say love of worldly life, what does it sound like to you? Is it a problem, or we hear this a lot, especially in religious circles, like worldly life, loving worldly life is not good, so on and so forth. But what does it remind you of when I say worldly life? And shall it be something bad? Or in what cases it's any sort of things about this, if you have an opinion. In general, I know it's a very open-ended question, but just to warm up, if anybody can put in some comments while waiting for people. So, okay, perfect. Farah, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. You're right in mentioning that it's kind of very common language to talk about the love for the world or the dunya, and then somehow being opposing to the will of God, it appears. So I think generally in the context that it's used is something that is contrary or in opposition to the will of God. But I guess in our context, it might be helpful or specific to say that the love of the world is to view anything within this world with the understanding that that thing in and of itself has a conscious power, or a conscious power over itself or any other thing, or that its qualities are its own, instead of being it being a sort of a holder or a reflector of qualities of its creator.
Thank you, Jazakallah khair. So yes, world is what we have in our hands. Let's say I am given some bounty. Actually, if you think about it, a banana is such a beautiful thing, and I cannot help but love a banana, or a beautiful flower, or my daughter. I love them. So without them, I wouldn't know about my maker, my provider in the first place anyways. So it's not really possible that I'm going to abandon this world. It's not possible, and it's not good either, because with world, actually, I tend to know my maker. But this being the case, what would be a good use of it? What would be an extreme and bad use of it? So, or where can I draw boundaries in there? Because sometimes it happens that although in this way, as we were describing it, world should be a tool for me, to get to know the provider. So like as long as I take banana as a providence, as a sustenance given to me, it becomes a tool to know the provider, the sustainer. So it becomes like the bridge between me and the provider. So therefore, I would love banana or the rose, but actually I would love it because it shows me the one that is to be truly beloved. But sometimes what happens is I get lost in the thing itself, and rather than seeing it as a tool, I start seeing it as the goal. So when and how does this happen? How come that the tool itself becomes my goal? And how can I save myself, realign myself, so that I'm going to put everything into perspective to its proper place? And then I'm not going to hate the world, but I'm just going to use it as a tool, and love of it's going to become like the intermediary, if you like, that it carries me to the ultimate source, ultimate target of my love, actually, source and target of my love, if I use it properly. So in a more simple terms, how do I not get lost in the world, in this day-to-day life? Because, I mean, in my case, I love my daughter, and it's such a lovely creature that you cannot stop yourself play with her. So it sometimes even occurs to me that just imagining something bad happening to her is enough to make me upset, although I know that it's just an imagination. So it's as if it is growing so big on me. This can be daughter or son for someone. It can be spouse for some other. It can be job for somebody else, or some life goals, which become goal for me, the ultimate goal. Just attaining this can become my goal. I might get lost in that thing itself. So I guess this is, and if you have any inputs, I'm still looking for the hands. I think this is quite possible and even common, not population-wise across people, but also for each person throughout my life, throughout our lives. Every moment we are prone to such a thing. Every moment is a new beginning in which I'm experiencing something new, but do I take it as a tool, as Farah was explaining initially, or do I get lost in it, or do I have a tendency to get lost in it? So how is it going to be that I'm going to be in the balance point, which means I'm not going to hate the thing itself. It's a tool, something that I need to make use of. Yet at the same time, I'm not going to take the tool on the face value and start getting consumed in it or getting lost in it. It grows so big that as if it just swallows me, I get drowned in it. So how do I do that? And again, the examples for that could be my research area, my thesis topic, or I don't know, there's something that I defend in my life and it's going to die with me, but I am so much lost in it for maybe just, I want to be right. This might be my whole purpose. I want to be known as, oh, this guy was always right. He told the truth. This might be my goal in life. How is it going to help me? Does it carry me beyond myself? Is it a goal? I guess this might be a litmus test. Is it a goal in and of itself, or is it a tool for beyond this existence? So I guess today's discussion is going to be about this. How can I become aware of this issue, and how can I be saved from such a trouble of getting lost in the life itself, worldly life. I guess the common, yeah, it's a very common word, worldly life. I'm not going to shy away from using the word, but I'll just redefine what I will mean throughout this discussion by worldly life. It's a life which doesn't have an eternal aspect. It's a life which starts and ends in here. And I am loving that for the sake of itself, for the sake of joy that I get out of it. So this sort of a thing, which becomes like a vortex, which just grabs me into it, to swallow me. How do I become vigilant to that? And in what circumstances I get lost in there? And how can I turn the table, and rather than being consumed by it, use it for my own good? How can I do that? So today's discussion is going to be about that. Before we start, any comments in general about the topic? I'm looking at the names. No. Okay. So yes, love of worldly life. And as we are trying to find answers from prophetic examples, Quran, we are asking Quran on how prophets are going to be a guidance for us in this very matter. And there is this very famous story of Musa alayhi salam in Quran, in which children of Israel worship a calf, like a small cow statue. So we will go through this story. It's being mentioned in multiple places. So I'm going to mostly go through Surah Taha, but also here and there, I'm going to take bits and pieces from Surah Al-A'raf, which is the 7th chapter. Surah Taha is 20, chapter number 20, if I'm not wrong. So just to initially give you a brief introduction to the matter. So, وَوَعَدْنَا مُوسَى 30 لَيْلَةً وَأَتْمَمْنَاهَا بِعَشْرِ فَتَمَّ مِيقَاتُ رَبِّهِ 40 ليلة وقال موسى لأخيه هارون أخلفني في قومي وأصلح ولا تتبع سبيل المفسدين. And then we appointed for Moses 30 nights, and we added to them 10, whereby the term of 40 nights set by his sustainer was fulfilled. And Moses said unto his brother Aaron, take my place among my people and act righteously, and follow not the path of the spreaders of corruption. So this is the beginning part of our story. So Musa alayhi salam goes to Mount Sinai for 40 days. So meaning that he is being separated from his people for a certain amount of time. But when he goes there, he leaves back his brother Aaron, and says, act righteously, وَأَصْلِحْ وَلَا تَتَّبِعْ سَبِيلَ الْمُفْسِدِينَ, follow not the path of the spreaders of corruption. So he warns his brother against how to act and how not to act. Then from Surah Taha, we get another part of the story. So the Creator now talks to Musa alayhi salam, says, وَمَا أَعْجَلَكَ عَنْ قَوْمِكَ يَا مُوسَى. Now, what has caused you, O Moses, to leave your people behind in so great a haste? But Musa alayhi salam replies, قَالَ هُمْ أُولَٰئِ عَلَىٰ أَثَرِي وَعَجِلْتُ إِلَيْكَ رَبِّي لِتَرْضَىٰ. He answered, they are treading in my footsteps. They are following my footsteps, while I have hastened unto you, O my sustainer, so that you might be well pleased. So he gives a reasoning here. He says, I left my people behind, but I left a legacy behind also. So they are following my footsteps. So I'm okay, or sort of I am secure in terms of how they are doing. They are in the right path. And as if now the messenger is trying to please the creator, now coming into this more of a personal relationship with the creator, so putting his duties aside for a moment, then goes back to have this conversation with the creator. And then the creator asks, why did you do that? And then he says, my people are following my footsteps. Then the creator responds, قال فإن قد فتنا قومك من بعدك وأضلهم السامري. Said he, creator says, then verily in your absence we have put your people to a test, and Samiri has led them astray. Samiri is the name of a guy who misled people of Moses when he is not there. So in today's discussion, I would like to highlight this aspect of worldly life, love of worldly life. How is it related to the messenger being absent from my life? Because we said initially these sort of things like worldly life, loving worldly life might get us into that sort of a trouble. But how does it happen? In what circumstances it happens? And how can I overcome it? Because things are attractive. Like you start doing a job, then you love it so much that you lose track of time. Even you lose track of your proper line of thought, and you start speaking the language of, let's say, if you're a scientist, then you start speaking the language of scientific community. Rather than trying to tie things to the creator, since you get so much lost in that community, maybe in order to get accepted by the community, or maybe because you lost your goal and you started making the success within that job your goal, I might be losing the purpose and just become infatuated in the success of that job, for instance. I mean, this can be applied to anything. It can be applied, as I said, to our relationship with our spouse, with our children, with our, I don't know, parents, because I guess especially in Eastern society, worshiping parents is another thing. So is it a goal or is it a tool for me? So what makes me end up having those things as the goal rather than a tool? So in this regard, this story, I would like to highlight that messenger was not among them. Although messenger's brother Harun was with them, was a messenger, but I'm going to skip this detail throughout the presentation, but he is going to avoid warning the people for a purpose, or he will partially warn them, but then step back. So in short, in the absence of messenger within the society, people fell into that trap, which we will now see. And in here, by the way, I would like to again underline that Moses is thinking that they are following his footstep. So he says, Hum ulai ala athari. So this part and the word athar in here is, I just want to highlight this. If you have any comments, please raise your hands at any moment. Feel free to do so. I'll go through the story, highlight some of the parts, and we'll be more than happy to hear your comments. So I skipped some of the verses in between, which I will come back at the very end. So now Moses comes back at this part of the story. Moses comes back and talks to his people and says, why did you do that? Why did you worship this calf? He comes back and he sees that they are worshiping a calf, as the previous verse was saying. So Samiri has led them astray. So there is a calf, a small cow statue made, and Moses keeps questioning them. And then they respond. قالوا ما أخلفنا موعدك بملكنا ولكننا حملنا. So in here, Moses says, why did you break your word against me? You promised that you were going to follow my message, but now apparently you started worshiping this calf. Why did you do that? So they say, we did not break our promise to you of our own free will. ولكن حملنا أوزارا من زينة القوم فقذفناها فكذلك ألقى السامري. But we were loaded with burdens of the people's ornaments. Within the flow of the story, I guess one way to take this is within the burdens of Egyptian people's ornaments. And then so we throw them, likewise did Samiri cast. So what they do is they have those jewels with them. So they melt this jewel and throw it into a fire. Samiri also throws it into a fire. So everybody has bits and pieces of those jewels and they melt it. And then Samiri now is taking the scene. He says, فَأَخْرَجَ لَهُمْ عِجْلًا جَسَدًا لَهُ خُوَارٌ فَقَالُوا هَذَا إِلَهُكُمْ وَإِلَهُ مُوسَى فَنَسِي. But then Samiri had produced for them the statue of a calf, which made a lowing sound, like a cow would do. And thereupon they said to one another, this is your deity, and the deity of Moses, but he has forgotten his past. So let me stop here. So what do you think about this? There are some elements that I see in here. One is they say we didn't do it of our own will. So they are coming up with a justification, and their justification is there's this people's ornaments was on them, or maybe it is love of these jewels were with them. So what they do, they say we cast it into fire, as Samiri also did, and then justifying also that Samiri did something to them. But then they say a statue of a calf which made a loving sound. Such a calf is built for them. So what do you see here? What does this signify? What does it remind you of? A golden calf. Sorry. And why, first of all, they say it's not of our own free will. Do we do such a thing, for instance? In my own case, what, when, and how do I say, well, it's not with my own free will that I'm doing such a thing? Say, I love my daughter so much, or I'm getting lost in my job. And I say, if I am asked, why did you break your initial covenant, which is you were going to use it as a tool, not as a goal? What is being my response? How do I justify this act? I guess even before how I justify it, it's very interesting that I justify it. I do not say, for example, well, yes, you're right, I am making a mistake. But I am trying to justify myself. I guess this is also part of being human. This is something that I do. I don't know why I do. If anybody wants to share their comment why we do such a thing, why we try to justify ourselves, why we try to cleanse ourselves from wrongfully worshiping a golden calf, but coming up with a justification for why I am getting lost or getting infatuated in a sense, worshipping those golden calves. And by the way, I should maybe also ask the question, what do you think about worshipping? Why is it considered as worshipping? Worshipping worldly life, or worshipping, have you ever worshipped your spouse, your friend, your parents, your job, your schooling? What does it mean to worship it? Any ideas? I will appreciate any comments. Okay. So I continue unless you raise your hands. So I guess feeling that as if my satisfaction will come from that very thing makes me beg in front of it. Like I need to be honest with myself, I guess, when I'm doing that. I might be having sleepless nights for, I don't know, for my career, I guess. This is the thing that we have sleepless nights most for. Or it might be I'm having sleepless nights if, let's say, you're trying to get married and this thing is not working out, and I am having sleepless nights for that. It's a problem. Okay, agreed. Everybody has problems. But what is this taste or nature of my problem? What makes me get lost in it so much? As if it might be that, I'm not saying that this is the only way to do it, but if it gets to the level that if I don't attain it, I'm going to be missing something. And if I attain this, if I achieve this, if I publish that paper, if I get married with this girl, I'm going to be super happy. I am then going to be complete. Without it, I am missing. So that is going to complete me. Then I become, if you like, a worshiper of that thing, because I am realizing my neediness, and I am feeling like this thing itself is going to satisfy my neediness. So taking this stand makes me worship it. So, but while I'm doing that, I don't want to admit that this is something wrong, because I guess human doesn't like to be wrong. Just everybody can test it for themselves. There's this side of me, either if I find out that I am wrong, there are two ways in front of me. One is either I will abandon my way and go with the right path so that I'm going to become right, or at least a follower of right, or I will insist that what I'm doing is right. You are wrong by telling me that I am wrong. Otherwise, I'm right and I'm correct. And this is what the people of Israel in here is doing, actually. So people of Israel in here is us. So they say, we did not break our promise to you of our own free will, actually. We were as if forced to do such a thing. The environment pushed us to act in this way. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it. So what is it? Those ornaments were around us. And actually, if you look at this golden calf picture over there, worshipping gold it's something lovely, like this, the color, shiny. It's something that's so attractive to human. So as if it grow on us so big, then as a collectively, each and every one of us throw their jewels into a fire. So it's not that individually I come against or I worship this. It's an individual, it's a collective endeavor that we worship this calf or this worldly life. As a whole, everybody was expecting for their satisfaction in, I don't know, the examples that we counted. So, yeah, Anaf, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk. I just wanted to that this actually made me think about something that's going on right now. I don't want to point fingers at anyone, but there's been this recent you know, thing in the Muslim community where people are doing certain things that they shouldn't be doing, such as things that could be taken as kufr and shirk, right? I hope everyone is understanding what I'm talking about. But anyway, like people try to justify these kind of things using say things like, oh, this is the society that we're living in. This is basically we're forced to do this, and they somehow try to justify, like like it says in the ayah number 88, this is your deity and the deity of Musa, but he has forgotten his past, right? So like we try to justify some of the actions that we're doing based on the society we're living in, using classical text and whatnot.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair. So I guess this is the case for everyone. We are trying to justify where we are. And while we do that, we are making use of this. Yeah, look, the others are doing this as well. We did it collectively. And then they point finger to Samiri, because Samiri is the guy who is taking, if you like, a leading role in this endeavor. So Samiri had produced for them the statue of a calf, which made a loving sound. This part is also important. This calf is making a sound. So why is that important? Let's put a question mark there. And thereupon they said, as they see that this calf, this golden calf, is making a sound, this is your deity and the deity of Moses, but he has forgotten. So what do you think? What is this mentioning of making a loving sound here? Why is it important? And how is it relevant to us? So making a sound is, from this existence, we are trying to find answers to our questions. And the existence doesn't speak to us. It doesn't speak to us very clearly. This is why we are in need of speech. That the maker of this existence should tell me why he gives existence to me, why he's creating the things as he does. So Nazmul says they think it's like a miracle. That's because the material golden calf is making a sound. It must be something special, divine. So I guess let's take it to our own case. So we are looking for speech and answer that will speak to us what this existence is telling. But we are having trouble with that. This is why we are in need of scripture, speech of God. But this golden calf is making some sort of a sound, as if it's implying that, like the God of Moses was talking to us, he was sending us speech, he was telling us what is the purpose of this existence, right? Yeah. Now this calf is also speaking to us. It is telling us something, maybe not too much explicit, but who cares about it being too much explicit if my purpose is, if the calf itself is my goal. I'm not really looking for a very clear answer to my questions, because I already think that the glittering, just this shiny surface of the calf is where my satisfaction lies. What I mean by that is, then if let's say my career goals, because I guess nowadays this might become a goal which consumes us. And again, I'm trying to keep the balance of it being a tool versus it being a goal. In here, we are talking about our career becoming our goal, ultimate goal in life. So what I start doing is, if as I start seeing some sort of sounds coming from my job, let's say, my career, the steps that I take in my career, as it gives me some sort of sound, meaning as if, oh, after getting this job, I started looking at universe from a very different angle. It's possible, right? Artists look at universe, like now we are in the fall season. So artists would look at fall much different than an engineer would look at it. So an artist could say, this job gave me a totally different perspective. And he or she wouldn't be wrong. But the issue in here is, am I replacing this perspective with speech of God? Meaning, what do I now take as the purpose of this existence? Where am I going to find the purpose of existence from? Am I going to look at it as it comes from the mouth of this calf? Or am I going to listen to it from speech of God and then look for confirmation as if I'm going to approve that what my creator says is also what he creates through existence? So in a sense, the people in this story are replacing speech of God with the sound, this lowing sound of calf. And this is something that I might be doing also. I might be replacing bits and pieces of different perspective, which I didn't experience before, that now I start experiencing as I get into this new endeavor, which might be, again, a new marriage, a new child, a new job. Am I replacing it with speech of God? So this part might be something that all of us is in the risk of. Then the verse continues, أَفَلَا يَرَوْنَ أَلَّا يَرْجُعُ إِلَيْهِمْ قَوْلًا وَلَا يَمْلِكُ لَهُمْ ضَرًّا وَلَا نَفْعًا. Why did they not see that the thing could not give them any response and had no power to harm or to benefit them? Now, the creator is questioning. Yeah, it gives you a sound, okay, sure, but it's not having this conversation with you. It's not answering your questions. Is it, I need to ask this question, is it? So I can now, I talked a lot about my job, but let's now talk about my daughter. If I get lost in the beauty and the charm of my daughter, and just say that, well, a year ago, I didn't have such a feeling, such a joy, such a perspective of life. Now that I have it after having my daughter. So as if this can be, I can take this, if I take it at the surface value, it can become the voice that comes out of this calf. But if I ask the question, is it giving me a satisfactory answer about where I am going? Because I am dying. Even my daughter is growing with a so fast pace. All the charm and beauty, it's changing. I mean, sometimes I feel like I would like to freeze some of those moments, but I cannot. So is this new perspective, does it solve my problem about why we are dying, why every moment is dying? So Nazmul is asking a question, is it like taking a certain limited perspective as the only perspective that matters? Nazmul, would you like to expand on this? It's a very cryptic question that I couldn't understand well.
That was Assalamu alaikum. I was asking about the thing you mentioned about like taking a limited speech as the speech of the creator. So I was just asking you to expand on that a little bit more.
Okay, so I am taking some experience that I go through and I take it as the purpose, as the end goal. So I guess I'm not going too much philosophical in here about anything, rather, I mean, being limited, unlimited, but just something very practical. I experience something and I'm looking for satisfaction in and of itself. So if I take the experience as a speech, so the speech might be, if I take it as, let's say, this experience that I live, the interaction between me and my daughter, I can take it as just it happens in there. And this is the end goal. Just enjoy the moment. These moments are passing, so make most out of it. This can be my attitude. Or I might be a believer, but at that moment, I forget that this interaction is being given to me as my creator speaks to me. I might be forgetting that, and I actually forget this a lot. What ends up happening is I just enjoy the moment. I mean, think about yourself when you are eating the food that you love most. Do you remember at all that your creator is talking to you through this food? Or you simply attack the food? I guess it's very common, right? So what's happening is I am now falling into the trap of I am starting to find satisfied in the sound that the calf makes. Just the satisfaction that I get through food, I start taking it as enough. But verse number 89 says, does it give you any response? Response to what? There must be a question that it's not going to give a response to, right? So human is constantly asking this question. If I pay attention to my inner self, what does it say? It says, why am I dying? Why are those moments passing? Why am I running after all the things? I grab them, but as if it's like a joke. Its importance disappears as I achieve it. Because I thought, let's say, if I graduate from high school, it was a big deal. If I graduate from university, it was a big deal. If I graduate from, I don't know, PhD, it was a big deal. The moment you take it into your hand, you realize that it's nothing. So what does this say? From inside, I'm asking for eternity. I want satisfaction, some satisfaction that stays with me. It's not something that up until I try to reach it, I will run after it. But once I take it, I realize that it was not real. So they don't give any response to me. They do not have any power to harm me or benefit me. They do not satisfy me. Do they not realize this? This verse is asking me. Then in verse number 90, وَلَقَدْ قَالَ لَهُمْ هَارُونُ مِنْ قَبْلُ يَا قَوْمِ إِنَّمَا فُتِنْتُمْ بِهِ وَإِنَّ رَبُّكُمْ الرَّحْمَنُ فَاتَّبِعُونِي وَأَطِيعُوا أَمْرِي. And then in the beginning of the story, Musa left Harun behind. So Harun says, and indeed even before, had Harun said to them, O my people, you are but being tempted to evil by this idol, this calf. For behold, your sustainer is the most gracious. Follow me then and obey my bidding or obey my command. So again, here we see that another, because this is what I have been questioning. What is the role of messenger in me falling into trap of worshiping this calf? In here again, Aaron says, reminds them of their most gracious sustainer, provider, and says, don't worship this idol, follow me. But what is their response? It's very interesting. So Nazmul makes a comment, so worshiping the moment and forgetting the meaning of the moment. Yes, for the previous point. So the response of those people to Harun is interesting. قالوا لن نبرح عليه عاكفين حتى يرجع إلينا موسى. It's very interesting. But they answered, by no means shall we cease to worship it. Actually, the word عاكفين is stronger than simply worship, because you know the word i'tikaf. During Ramadan, people stay in the mosque for longer periods of time. So it's more like a devoted worship. So they say, by no means shall we cease to devotedly worship this calf until Moses come back to us. So again, they say, if the messenger is not here, you're not going to stop worshiping this calf. So as you see, by the way, the reason that I put this ox here under this calf is, it starts with a small calf, but it eventually becomes this ox. It becomes a golden ox that we start worshiping in our hearts. So it grows. Yeah, Wall Street. So it grows in us. Whatever it is, it grows in us. So now this is the part that Musa comes back, and now he is questioning Samiri. He says, قال فما خطبكم يا سامري? What's up with you, Samiri? Then Samiri says, قال بصرت بما لم يبصر. He answered, I have gained insight into something which they were unable to see. So he is like a visionary. He is above the rest of the people. So he is putting forth some ideology to them, to the rest of the people, which they were not able to put into shape, if you like. فَقَبَضْتُ قَبْضَةً مِنْ أَثَرِ الرَّسُولِ. This is an interesting part. And so I took hold of a handful of the messenger's footprints. فَنَبَذْتُهَا وَكَذَلِكَ سَوَّلَتْ لِنَفْسِي. And threw it into the calf, for thus has my soul prompted me to act. This part is so beautifully depicted over here. So initially, in the beginning, what was the verse? Musa alayhi salam, when he was talking to the Creator, when the Creator said, why did you hasten so much and left your people behind and come here? What did Musa alayhi salam say back then? He said, قَالَ هُمْ أُولَٰئِ عَلَى أَثَرِي. So they are on my footsteps, he said. And in here, Samiri says something very similar to that, actually. He says, into that calf, that statue, I put from your footprints. I added something, if you like, as you add spice to food. Samiri says, I added your footprint as spice to this statue to make it more, if you like, acceptable. And isn't this something that I do? I ask that question to myself, and I guess each one of us should ask that question to legitimize, to justify our golden statues. Don't we put from the footprints of the messengers? Because what happens in this case is, and while saying that, don't think about anybody else. Just think about yourself. Don't say that, oh, yeah, they are doing it like this. No. To what extent am I doing this? Today, let's talk about this. When I try to justify something that is worldly in the sense that rather than it being a tool to take me to my maker, creator, it becoming the end goal in and of itself. How do I add from messenger's footprints into this? To make it sound like, well, this is not totally evil. You see, this is how messengers did it. Or as initially he was making that, the calf was giving out some sound. Yeah, messengers bring speech of God, so it's a sound, a meaningful sound, but this one is also making some sort of a sound. So I guess this justification over here is what we add. So now I would like to stop here and ask you the question in more general terms. So to summarize the big picture, there are those people in the absence of the messenger, they started worshiping a calf. but worshiping is still there. The messenger comes and says, shouldn't you be worshiping your creator, but not this calf? So what is that relationship between messenger being with me and worshiping the creator? And in the absence of messenger, I worship something else. What does this practically sound like to you? I mean, in your day-to-day experience, when you find yourself, how can you properly worship your creator? Any ideas? Because I'm assuming that when I say worship, you might be remembering of salat directly. So how does my salat, let's say, make me not to worship my job, not to get lost in my job? Does it have this functionality, or can it have this functionality? Let me put it this way. And how is that related to the messenger? This is a hard question, I think. And the reason for it being hard is, do I see salat as I am now in the presence of my maker, and by realizing my neediness, I am declaring my neediness and I'm asking for help from him directly. And this I am doing as I learned it from the person who realized his neediness to the utmost level, and he declared or asked for help of the creator for the whole existence. Do I see messenger as such an example in the first place? And when I do my worship to the creator, do I realize that actually, as I saw him doing such a thing, and I am so much convinced that this is something to be done, and then I am doing it as if right now when I'm going to do my prayer, do I feel like, do I sense like messenger is leading the prayer? Do I see it as such? So just to give you an example, how far, at least personally, I am from that understanding. When it comes to applying science, I'm feeling like I am truly in the footsteps of giants, or as they say, on the shoulders of giants, which are like Galilei or Newton, or I don't know, today I guess more famous is Einstein. So when I do science, I think that they did something very cool, and I am willing to follow their footsteps because I know all about them, and I know that where I am today is a continuation of what they left behind. I am very much aware of it, and keeping them in perspective, I do science eagerly. And this is what I have been taught of, and this is what I'm putting at perspective. I want to become like them, or even better than them. So when I do my prayer, who is my teacher when it comes to worship? And when I say this, I'm not simply meaning how to raise my hands or how to bow. This is part of the story, but it's not the only story. Unfortunately, maybe it became the only story for me many of the times. This is the only thing I learned from the messenger when it comes to worshiping. But is worshiping something as cool as doing science, in my perspective? Like, doing science is so cool, like Newton did, I want to do it. Is doing worship something as cool as that for me? If it is not, then I think Prophet is not part of my life. Prophet is far away. And as this example was saying, as Prophet is far away from my life, what happens? I start worshiping something else. Something else becomes my object of worship. Something else becomes cool for me. So this is why I guess this issue about messenger, and messenger now is being defined as, who is messenger then? Messenger is the person, must be the person. And actually, let me get to that. So at the beginning of the story in Surah Al-A'raf, when Musa alayhi salam, the creator says, your people after you gone astray. Samiri led them astray. So then Musa alayhi salam comes back. And this theme that I'm now going to mention is common in both Surah Al-A'raf and also Surah Taha. So he comes back angry. وَلَمَّا رَجَعَ مُوسَى إِلَىٰ قَوْمِهِ غَضْبَانَ آسِفًا. And when Moses returned to his people full of wrath and sorrow, قال, he exclaimed, بئس ما خلفتموني من بعدي. While is the course which you have followed in my absence. أعجلتم أمر ربكم. Have you forsaken your sustainer''s commandment? This part is common in both chapters, both surah. So he is showing him being upset to the people. But in Surah Araf, there's another detail. وَأَلْغَى الْوَاحِ. And he threw down the tablets. So in the before previous part of this verse, Creator says, we gave Musa alwah, tablets. So he is given speech of God. But now Musa alayhi salam is angry and he throws those tablets. This is a very important detail, I think, because after this narration continues in verse number 154, what happens is, وَلَمَّا سَكَتَ, and when Moses' wrath was stilled. So he had this conversation with his people, he warned them, then they accept their mistake, they understand. And then he is now calm. What does he do? فَلَمَّا سَكَتَ عَنْ مُوسَى أَنْ غَضَبُ أَخَذَ الْأَلْوَاحِ. He takes back those tablets. So he again takes to his hand the message that he is going to deliver. وفي نسختها هدى ورحمة للذين هم لربهم يرهبون. In the writing, so what is written on those tablets? In the writing whereof there was guidance and grace for all who stood in awe of their sustainer. So with this, inshallah, today's discussion will end. So what is the role of messenger? Messenger has two roles, if you like, in summary. What do we say in like kalima? أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. So messenger has two main duties. One is bringing the message, and the second is being the perfect worshipper, abduhu. In this story, Musa alayhi salam brings them back, comes back to them with a message, but he sees that they abandoned worshiping. What does he do at that moment? He is angry, he puts down the message, and he goes back to fix the other problem, which is, why are you worshiping something that doesn't respond to your queries? You're having some issue with the worshiping. You mix the point. You are missing the address from there to receive message in the first place. You are feeling like as if this golden calf is going to satisfy you. You are listening to the mouth, the voice that comes out of the mouth of this golden calf, and it doesn't answer your questions. Don't you see that? such a mindset is not ready to understand any message. This is why Musa alayhi salam first shows that recognize in front of whom you are needy, which is worship, right? Worship means I am in need of someone who can fulfill my needs, who can give me an eternal life, who can kill the death for me. Otherwise, death is waiting for me. Death is annihilating all my joys. So it's a huge trouble. The one that can satisfy me shouldn't be dying. Like if a university degree is what I think will satisfy me, it should not end. But no, it does end, right? It can also happen that everybody else gets a degree, so it becomes normal. Even in my lifetime, a university degree can become useless. So it's something that dies. It doesn't satisfy me. So if I am to worship this, then if I think that it's going to satisfy me, I will look at the mouth of this university degree. What is going to come out of it that it's going to satisfy me? So Musa alayhi salam's approach in here is, he's not coming with the message, more message to explain them what is right, what's wrong. He says, you know what? Your problem is with worshiping. You are worshiping the wrong thing. Let's first fix this. So prophet means two things, just to summarize again. Prophet is, he brings the message, but the message is lived through and interpreted with life, which is, who am I? What am I? Properly understanding and properly answering this question is, I am the needy one, and I am the one that is being provided. So I need to respond back with my thanks, with offering thanks. So who is my provider? It's not my university degree. Who is the provider of my joy when I am interacting with my daughter? It's not my daughter. I'm getting old. I'm going to die. She's growing up. Her charm is, well, you know, as they grow, they're going to start causing trouble. The things are disappearing. So these are not the things that will satisfy me. So I am in need of being satisfied, and none of those satisfy me. So whom do I worship? Prophet comes and first fixes this problem and then says, okay, now that we started having some balance, let's go back to the message again. So there is this cycle back and forth between abduhu wa rasuluhu. I am going to see and hear the message from the messenger. It will remind me of me being a worshiper of the creator. I will do more worship as I see from the messenger as my example, like the cool guy, like the Newton, like the, I don't know, any of those, Einstein. Now I am seeing the messenger in front of me as the perfect example of worshiping. And in my perception, this is the coolest thing to do because it saves me from my worries. It brings me the satisfaction that I'm looking for. And then I do worship, then this makes me more willing to listen to the message from the messenger. So it's like a cycle, but it's not a cycle. If you like, it's a spiral. Like making tawaf, you turn around 7 times, which means multiple times you turn around the same thing, but it's not the same thing. It's not a repetition. It is something that grows, because why does it grow? Worldly life doesn't grow, right? You keep eating banana for how many years? Right at the moment, do you have the taste of banana in your mouth? No, you have to eat it again to get the same taste. But in terms of my relationship with my creator, it's like a spiral that grows, because your understanding so far, your connection, not only mental understanding, your connection, the strength and the, if you like, realness of your connection with your creator, it's something that strengthens over time. So this is why this abduhu wa rasuluhu cycle is an important cycle, a spiral, a growing spiral that makes me stronger in attaining satisfaction. So inshallah, I will stop here. Any comments or questions? Yes, Brother Birk.
Jazakallah khairan. Thank you, all these beautiful discussion comments. I apologize for joining late. So I raised my hand to show that I am here, although I'm late. That's a really interesting topic, interesting discussion. So when I think about it in my practical life, sometimes I feel like, my Moses left me, and I am left with Samiri. So that's the only thing I have in my life. The people who pretend knowing answers to things, who pretend they're following some footprints of, I don't know, intellectuals or prophets or anyone. Because when you think about it, like, I don't have a prophet with me. I don't have a living prophet with my nation, with my community, with my family, or with myself. I don't have the one who we call as beloved prophet as a person who died a long time ago. So from that perspective, if we take, he left us, right? We are left alone. But this story, these verses in Quran somehow suggests, as you beautifully describe, that my relationship with my prophet, and through that with my Lord, the sustainer, must be constant, must be continuous. I must have a relationship with my prophet constantly. There shouldn't be a moment in which my prophet leaves me. This is what the Quran suggests me here as I'm taking the side of, is the people of Israel now. But I don't see a prophet around me. And as you said, all these philosophers, scientists, magicians, I don't know, storytellers, our Samiris, that's the only thing around. And we're trying to find our ways. So there must be something this verse is telling me as a solution, what I'm going to do. And I guess this verse is, as again already discussed, telling me that do not forget that you have to follow the footprint of the prophet. That's your responsibility. You have to do that. Do I have any means to do that? I think so, yes. I have all these narrations, I have all these seeras, and this is just part of it. Maybe more important, I have students of my prophet, all these scholars. So I have some means to reach him. But I guess the most important part is the intention. Do I have the intention of following my prophet, making it a constant, making it a continuous thing in my life? With every step I take, with every water I drink, with every night I sleep, do I have in my mind somewhere that I need a guidance, I need a guide to show me how to sleep, how to drink, how to step? Do I have such an intention? And Quran here, I think, says that this is what you need. You need such an intention. Don't think your prophet left you. Don't assume he left you and you are alone with Samiri. Have your intention to follow him, because just because you heard about the revelation, the Quran in our case, that your job is done. Don't think that. This is just a message. Yes, it teaches me things. I have guidance there. But to make it as a practical thing in my life, I have to follow the footprint of the Prophet. And I have to follow it genuinely, not like Samiri, who, wanted to mix it with other things just because he liked. I shouldn't do that. I should be very devoted in following the footprints of the Prophet. So this is a very practical issue. This is a very practical issue, and this is very, according to Quran, and it makes sense to me. It's very important because at the very moment I go astray from the footprint of the Prophet, I find myself worshiping a calf, golden one, who can make some noise. This is not any far reality in my life. So I have to take it very serious and say that every moment, am I following my Prophet? Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair. Yes, and in this verse number 90, this is what Harun was saying. Harun was with them as a replacement for Musa. So Musa left behind his brother, said, do my job here when I am not here. But people said no. Until Moses comes back to us, we will keep worshiping this calf. And as you said, as Quran is describing what I am, who I am, this is what I am doing. So yeah, Prophet is long gone, and even I am putting some doubts of shadow on the narrations and this and that. And then as another excuse for me worshiping this calf, golden calf, so everything seems okay now, as if. But yes, I should ask the question to me, as verse number 89 is saying, I guess, then this becomes the key. And I need to ask this question to myself. Do I not see that the thing that I worship could not give me any response, do not answer my core or existential questions? It doesn't answer why my grandfather passed away, why my parents are aging, why am I aging? Like the answer to that shouldn't be just like, because of this protein you're aging. No, why that protein? Why there is the concept of aging in the first place? I don't want to die. I mean, don't give me a simple answer, oh, you add this and that and then you become older. No, why does this happen? Why is the whole machinery acting like that? As if I am thrown into here just to suffer and then be thrown away. And this being the purpose of my life, it doesn't make sense. It hurts actually. So, and the things that I worship has no power or harm, no power to harm or benefit me in terms of those problems, those questions. They are irrelevant when it comes to my purpose, my real questions in life. So I need to ask that question, and then answers to these questions, are they philosophers? Let me go and see if any philosopher came up with an answer to that question. If not, this is where messenger comes into the picture. And as you beautifully said, I need to keep asking this question, where is messenger in my life? And just to summarize again, abduhu wa rasuluhu, if you like, is the summary that Islam suggests. And it's very interesting that this is one half of the Shahada, witnessing. The first half is I bear witness that there's no God but He. The second half of Shahada is as if it's equivalent to the first half. وَأَشْهَدُ أَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا عَبْدُهُ وَرَسُولُهُ. He is a slave, a worshipper, and also a messenger of the Creator. So let this discussion, inshallah, be a reminder for ourselves to question what is really the importance of this messenger and messengerhood in my day-to-day life for some central question as central as this love of worldly life, or am I worshipping a calf? Jazakallah khair. Inshallah, let's conclude here. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Wa akhiru da'wahum anil hamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Al-Fatiha.